In late January, news broke that famous R&B singer Chris Brown owes a whopping $4 million in unpaid taxes to the government. Now, in today's video, I'm going to cover all the details of this story that you need to know, as well as the key tax information involved. But be sure to stay all the way to the end of this video if you want to know exactly what went wrong for Chris Brown and how you can prevent this from happening in your life. Let's dive in. Now, before we jump into the video, if you haven't already, go ahead and click on the link below to join the Tax-Free Wealth Challenge. During these 5 days, I will be teaching you advanced tax strategies that I do not teach on YouTube. It's a good chance for me to understand your tax situation since we'll be on Zoom video calls with each other. I would also love for you to spend those 5 days with me understanding the mindset of how the wealthy leverage the tax system and actually be able to get strategies implemented into your tax returns. If that is something that you're interested in, click on the link below and I look forward to seeing you during those 5 days. Now back to this video. All right, guys, so what exactly happened to C Breezy? On January 24th, it was reported by news publications that Chris Brown owes over $4 million in unpaid taxes. Apparently, the singer was hit with a federal tax lien for roughly $2.2 million in December of 2022. In addition to this amount, the federal government says that he owes another $1 million on top of that, and that's not all. The state of California, yes, California, has claimed that Chris Brown owes the state a substantial amount of tax money and has also filed a state tax lien on Chris Brown. This lien for the state of California is $740,000. So between the federal tax lien and the state tax lien, the additional money that the IRS claims that Brown owes, Breezy is behind in taxes by a total of roughly $4.4 million. And that is not a small number, guys. How did Chris Brown react to this situation, you might ask? Just one day after news broke of his massive tax debt, Brown surprisingly posted a video to social media in which he showed off his massive clothing collection and bragged that he had to build a department store to house all of his clothes. This video shows rows and rows of high-end designer clothes on racks in a large room. The large room full of clothes did in fact look like something that you would see in a department store. Some people have been wondering why exactly Brown decided to post such a video a day after a story about his massive tax debt broke. There could be a couple of reasons why he responded like this. It could be because he wanted to show that he is still wealthy and lives a luxurious lifestyle despite owing heaps of money to the IRS. Or it could be because he wanted to show you that he isn't fazed by the news on his financial troubles circulating the internet, and he's just carrying on as usual. Finally, some people are suspecting that it could be because Brown might try to pay off the tax debt by selling a lot of his clothes in a tag sale, which is something that he has done before. Now, in 2019, Chris Brown had a massive yard sale at his home in California in which he sold a large amount of his clothes. So it is possible that Brown could be gearing up to create a second tag sale in order to help generate money to pay off the gigantic tax debts that he owes to the state of California and to the IRS. So what will happen to Brown if he doesn't pay the income taxes that he owes? Right now, it is not clear if Chris Brown will pay off the money he owes to the government or whether he will try to avoid paying it with some other tactic. However, he does have multiple tax liens on him for millions of dollars. Because the federal government and the state of California have tax liens on Chris Brown, it means that they have official legal claims against his property. So this means that if Brown fails to pay the back taxes that he owes, then the government can step in and simply take his property as payment for the debt he owes. So hypothetically, all of the clothes that Chris Brown was flaunting on social media could end up being owned by Uncle Sam at some point in the near future if Chris Brown all of a sudden can't pay his tax debt. Now, you're probably asking, will Chris Brown potentially go to jail over this situation? Right now, the details of Chris Brown's tax situation are just emerging. At this point, it does not appear that Brown has committed any tax crimes such as tax fraud or tax evasion. So this means that it's unlikely that he'll go to jail. However, that doesn't mean that he'll be off the hook from paying off his tax bills. Both the federal government and the state of California are likely to keep pressing him relentlessly until the bills get paid off, and they might start auditing him in future years just because he's now a target. And if he doesn't pay the bills, then his assets will be seized one way or another. But generally speaking, most people who go to prison for tax-related issues do not go just because they owe money in taxes. Instead, they go if they have deceived the government in some way and committed some type of fraud. If Chris Brown had failed to file tax returns altogether for a number of years, then this could potentially land him in prison because it is a type of tax evasion. But as far as we can tell, this is not what has happened here. He just, for some reason, chose not to pay all the money that he owed to the government, and now it's become known. So how might Chris Brown pay this money back? Chris Brown's net worth is estimated to be around $50 million. Because he has such a high net worth, it's likely that he has the cash on hand to simply pay the $4 million that he owes in taxes. However, if he doesn't pay the $4 million in cash, he could end up selling assets such as real estate, such as cars, such as jewelry, designer clothing, in order to get the cash to pay off his tax debt. Additionally, Chris Brown has a massive world tour scheduled for later this year. During this tour, he'll be performing shows in the UK, France, Germany, the Netherlands, and in other locations. This tour will support his new album Breezy, and it's set to be quite the success. It is predicted that Brown will make a substantial amount of money from this tour. So if he did need any additional funds to help him pay off his tax debt, then this tour could be able to help him get what he needs. The question is though, will he actually use the profits to pay the government? Because after all, many celebrities have more than enough money to pay their taxes, but some still choose not to for some reason and end up in a lot of unnecessary trouble. And sometimes this unnecessary trouble can result in you having a lien being placed on your name, your properties, and your social security number. If Chris Brown were to try to travel and leave the country, it'd be very hard for him to leave the country to go through customs because he has a federal tax lien on his name. The government's not going to allow for him to leave the country until he pays that tax balance down. So the bottom line is, for Chris Brown's tax situation is that it's $4 million that he's behind on in tax payments. We don't know whether or not he's simply going to pay the money or try to negotiate with the IRS, refile his tax returns, look for discrepancies that were made on his tax returns. Now that there are millions of dollars worth of liens on his properties, he is going to pay up sooner or later or risk losing his assets. The issues that Chris Brown is dealing with now should serve as a cautionary tale to anyone who is thinking about just not paying their taxes right now and dealing with it later. The only way to avoid having your state government and the IRS not coming after you is to actually pay the amounts that you owe. It is true that sometimes people miscalculate the amount of money that they owe to the IRS and thus end up paying less than they really owe and having a tax debt as a result. But the best way to prevent this from happening is to work with a tax professional who can file your tax returns correctly in a timely manner and is using legal tax strategies to minimize your tax burden the right way. If you're interested in working with my team and I to make sure that you're saving as much as possible in taxes and having your taxes filed 100% accurately every year, then feel free to get in touch with us by clicking on the link in the description below. We'd be happy to work with you. Also, if you're somebody that wants to partner with me on your tax planning for this upcoming year, I look forward to seeing you inside of the Tax-Free Wealth Challenge. During these 5 days, I'll get a chance to understand who you are as a person, get to look into your financial situation, determine if it makes sense for us to work together, and be able to teach you advanced tax strategies over the course of 5 days. So if that's something that you're interested in, I look forward to seeing you in the upcoming Tax-Free Wealth Challenge that will be kicking off March 6th. Till then, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.